The end goal should be marriage. This is what you should be proving a man or a woman for. Women, y'all ain't the creators of life. Y'all eggs die over a time. We the gods of the earth, women. I just want y'all to know. It ain't y'all. So the end result should be marriage. Lust should not be the goal ever at any point in the proven process. Shalom, Israel, Most High in Christ bless. I am Officer Yaqub of IUIC Dallas, and the class that I'm going to do today is an important class, very important, because everybody wants a mate. Everybody wants a husband or a wife, for the most part. Let me draw that back. For the most part, 99% of the people that I know want a husband or a wife. And in that, many of us have gone crazy trying to find a husband or a wife because we as a people have gone a long time not knowing how to find a husband or a wife. So the class that I'm doing today is coming out of the book of Ruth, and the title of it is Ruth, Proving with Wisdom. And that word proving just goes into making sure that somebody is safe and sound, or somebody is good to deal with, that they solid, right? Based on the word of God, not just your emotions, but that they actually are a solid person for you to deal with, right? So we're going to start off, and I want to actually, who I got reading for me today?
Officer Zion.
Officer Zion. That's who I got reading for me this morning. I appreciate it greatly, too. But, yeah, we're going to deal with proving. And it's an issue that our community is completely jacked up on. We don't understand how to find husbands and wives no more. When it comes to choosing a husband or wife, you know, we haven't had that focus that we're supposed to have, which is a biblical focus. So we're going to focus on that today and shed some light on the godly way or the proper way to find a husband or a wife. We're going to start off with Romans 15 and 4. I always like to start off with Romans 15 and 4.
The book of Romans, chapter 15 and verse 4.
For
whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
That we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. So our hope should come through the Bible. Our comfort for any of the problems and trials that we deal with in life should come from the Bible. So God left the Bible behind so that we in these times and in all times, as always been here, in all times might have hope and comfort when we go back and begin to read and apply what the Word of God says to us. Now, dealing with the word proven, give me the book of Judges real quick. Judges chapter 2. Judges chapter 2, and I believe it's verse number 20. Judges chapter 2 and verse number 21. Start at 21. We're going to read 21 and 22. I didn't have this written down, but let's read it real quick.
The book of Judges, chapter 2 and verse 20. And the anger of the Lord.
21.
Verse 21.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I also will not henceforth drive out any from before them of the nations which Joshua left when he died.
So when we first went into our land, the land of Canaan, which became the land of Israel, it was always promised to us from the beginning. And we read about that in Genesis. It was promised to Abraham. It was promised to Isaac. It was promised to everybody saw that. They all saw that promise, right? Moses saw it. So that land was promised to us. But when we went into that land, we were told to kill everybody in that land, man, woman, child, even the animals. Kill them all. Take the houses and the land is yours. I gave it to you. That's what it's speaking about when he said when Joshua died or before Joshua died. So we were supposed to kill all of those races that were in there. Those were Hamitic races. the Canaanites, the Philistines, which were the children of Egypt. They were cousins, so they were in that land. And then you had other people over there too. All right. Verse 22.
Verse 22.
Uh-huh.
That through them I may prove Israel.
That through them I may prove Israel. God gave a commandment. He said, here's what I'm telling you to do. Go into the land, perform what I told you to do. And why did he say perform that? That through them?
I may prove Israel.
Because that action that I gave you, that I told you to do, is going to prove whether or not you're really going to do what I told you to do and whether you're really going to follow me and be my people. He did all of that to prove Israel, to make sure that Israel was who he said they were, who he thought they were, and who we said we were. Verse 22, start from the top again.
Judges chapter 2, verse 22. That through them I may prove Israel, whether they will keep the way of the Lord to walk therein, as their fathers did keep it or not.
You see that? So to walk in his ways, meaning his commandments. Whatever he commanded us, is that what you're going to do? So when it comes to proving, when it comes to relationships, you want to make sure that you're proving somebody to make sure that they are going to keep the way of the Lord, walk therein, as their fathers did, or not. Who is this person going to show you that they are? So you take time to prove the people that are around you. Now give me 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 12.
The book of 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 12.
Uh-huh.
Let no man despise thy youth.
Let no man despise your youth. Right now, we are babes. We are the children of God. And the Bible says don't let anybody despise that. We know that we don't know everything. We know that we're coming back into the knowledge of God that has been away from us for a long time. But when we have faith that what God has told us is pure, honest, and true, then don't let anybody despise what it is that you're doing when it's coming from this book. Don't let nobody despise it. Come on.
But be thou an example of the believers.
But be an example of the believers. Show yourself to be approved by God through your studies, through your words, and through your actions. Be an example of the believers, those who keep the commandments of God. Come on.
In word.
In word.
In conversation.
Your conversation.
In charity.
Uh-huh.
In spirit.
Uh-huh.
In faith. In purity.
That's what a person that you're proving should be showing you, that they actually believe the word of God, and not through just their speech, but also in the conversations, in charity, in spirit, in faith, in purity. All of that goes back to actions. Let somebody show you who they are through their actions, not just through their words or through what you can see on their outer appearance. Prove these people. Give me now Sirach chapter 6. And I want to read verses 7 through 8, and then we'll read verse number 10. So Sirach chapter 6.
The book of Sirach chapter 6 and verse 7.
Come on.
If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first.
So if you want to start a relationship with somebody, here it says a friend. So this should happen whether or not this is marriage that a man and a woman are looking at, or if it's just two men proving that, hey, this brother really is my friend, or sisters proving that this sister really is my friend. What does the Bible say again?
If thou wouldest get a friend,
if you want to make friends with somebody,
prove him first.
Make sure that they are going to show belief in word, conversation, charity, spirit, faith, and purity. Prove them first. Let them show you who they are first, and take your time doing it. Read.
And be not hasty to credit him.
Why does it say be not hasty to credit him? Go to in the same book, Sirach 19 and 4.
The book of Sirach chapter 19 verse 4.
Uh-huh.
He that is hasty to give credit is light-minded.
You simple as hell if you quick to give credit to somebody that you're looking to be a friend with, and especially if it's somebody that you're looking to take on as a lifelong mate, as a wife or as a husband. What does it say again?
He that is hasty to give credit.
Those who are quick to give credit, meaning you don't take time to prove somebody. You don't take time to examine this person's words, conversations, charity, spirit, faith, and purity. Read.
Is light-minded.
You simple as hell. Read.
And he that sinneth shall offend against his own soul.
And the person that's caught up in the midst of sin, that hasn't gained wisdom in that doesn't show their belief in this through their action, is going to offend against their own soul. Meaning you're going to get trapped up. You're going to get caught up. And that's why we see a lot of backdoor marriages happen. That's the reason that we see trouble in marriages, that then they get married and they just eat each other's throat the whole time, right? Or they might make it 4 or 5 years down and the woman still ain't showing that she's gonna submit and set her mind after her Lord's mind. Or he still isn't paying for the things necessary. He's not taking care of the things that are required of him to take care of for his house. He's not teaching his wife. He's not being patient with her. He's not doing this, that, and the third. That's what's going to happen. You're going to offend against your own soul. You're going to end up in the midst of sin, calling her bees and hoes, and she going to be calling you bands, a B-ass nigga and all of that type, There's going to be all manner of evil going on in the house. So don't be light-minded. Take the time to prove that friend first. Go back to Sirach chapter 6 and read. Now we're going to go to verse 8, and then we're going to jump to verse 10.
The book of Sirach, chapter 6, verse 8. For some man is a friend for his own occasion.
And this is why you want to prove them, because some people can show themselves friendly for their own occasion, meaning a woman just might need a man to pay bills because she's tired of working, or she's stuck at her mama's house or her cousin's house, and she needs somebody to take care of her. That's her own occasion. So she going to show herself friendly to you just so she can get that, because she know that a godly man is going to provide the things that he's supposed to provide. Come on.
And will not abide in the day of thy trouble.
But she ain't going to stick around when troubles come up. When you lose that job and can no longer do it, she ain't going to be like the righteous women in the Bible and be willing to go get a job so she then can take care of things until you're back on your feet, until she can take care of things, because now your nest egg that you might have had is gone, is drained away. Nope. She going to bounce out. She going to leave the truth, and she going to speak all manner of evil against you. And the brother going to go around and say how wicked she was, never thinking on how wicked he was and the fact that he took her and didn't take the time to prove her. They not going to abide in the days of trouble. Jump down to verse 10.
Verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
Again, some friend is a companion at the table.
They're a companion at the table,
and will not continue in the day of thy affliction.
And that's what that day of trouble is. The day that you're afflicted, that you get sick or you don't have a job or something is going on, they out. They bouncing. Now all of a sudden it ain't no more friendship, but they was there riding it first. And that goes for, even friends. Again, a man and his homeboy, or the brother in the truth, or two sisters in the truth dealing with each other. They out. We see it all the time. All right, so now here we see the word prove, right? When it says to prove a friend. Let's look at the definitions and some synonyms of the word prove. Let's pull those up real quick so that the audience can see them. And let's read that. Let's read the definition of the word prove.
Prove. To establish the existence, truth, or validity of, as by evidence or logic.
So that's proven. To establish the existence, truth, or validity of, as by evidence. Meaning you're seeing this person be this way. B.
B. To demonstrate as having a particular quality or worth.
So make a person prove that they have particular qualities or worth. Read definition number 2.
2. To show oneself to be worthy or capable.
Make a person show you that they are worthy or capable of actually being a friend or being worthy of being your friend. Both of y'all are going to be proving to each other at the same time that y'all are capable and worthy of being what you're supposed to be. Go to definition number 3. Let's look at those. Let's look at that one.
3.
Mm-hmm.
To test the truth, validity, or genuineness of.
Genuineness of. Is this person genuine? Next one.
B. To test the worth or quality of.
Next one.
C. To check the correctness of something, such as an arithmetic result.
Arithmetic, yes. Arithmetic. Or arithmetic, but that's arithmetic. So you prove it, and that's going into math. You're going into, you proving the result, how you got it. You can show that you actually understood it by proving how you got there. But number 4, the archaic one, this one is the one that goes back biblical. Read that.
Archaic, number 4, to learn or find out by experience.
So learn or find out who this person is by experience, meaning you're going to take time, you're going to see how they move, you're going to hear how they talking, and you're going to receive reports about this person. All of this goes into proving. You want to know, is this person really as solid as they're showing themselves to be? And all of these things go into it. All right, so now let's look at some of the synonyms that go with the word prove.
Synonyms. Establish.
Establish. How? Over a period of time is how you're going to establish or know whether or not. Go ahead.
Demonstrate. Confirm.
Confirm.
Verify.
Verify. That's you asking questions. That's you watching and seeing that their actions match up with their words, and that all of that goes back to what the Bible says.
Identify.
Identify.
Validate. Substantiate.
Substantiate.
Substantiate. Document.
Document. Take it down in your mind. So we see proven. Let's go back to Sirach chapter 6, verse 7. So we see all of this is lined up with proven. To confirm, verify, identify, validate, all of that you have to do in the process of proving, and not hastily. Don't make it quick. It takes time to verify, to validate, or to substantiate something, to get evidence or corroborate something. It takes time. And with IUIC, the base amount of time that's always suggested with us is take 1 year. Take one full round of feast days. Are they going to keep the feast days? Are they going to keep all of the Sabbaths? And what's their spirit going to be like during those feast days and Sabbath? Are they going to break it because they, oh, shoot, I got to make some money, so I need to break the Sabbath so I can go do this? What things are they going to? What things are you going to see in that person over the next year? But 1 year is a minimum. Right now, there's a program that's going on, and the sisters are in this program so that they're learning how to be wives, how to be daughters of Sarah. So there's a program that's going on, and I believe that that's 2 years, right, officer?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I believe that's a 2-year program. So sisters are learning for 2 years how to be what it is that they're supposed to be, so they're better prepared when a brother sees them to be chosen to be a wife. They're learning the things necessary to be a wife. All right? So read that again. Sirach chapter 6 and verse 7.
Sirach chapter 6, verse 7. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him.
So being a friend means that we actually establish friendship through proof, by learning who they are through experience. That's how we prove a friend. And that takes time, and no one should rush into it. We see the Bible calls you a fool. Light-minded is what that word means. It means you foolish when you don't take your time to do it. And proving in this, it should always be an end goal. The end goal should be marriage. This is what you should be proving a man or a woman for, because otherwise men and women don't really prove each other or deal with each other in the truth. Temptation is there. I'll just be honest, right? If you're in the truth, you're a single man, you ought to not have no homegirls like that in the truth. You certainly shouldn't be on the phone with them, but you friendly around them, right? You know, at the events that we do and so forth. It doesn't mean that we as adults don't laugh with each other when we're single. But you should be very careful, tread lightly about how you're dealing with a sister or a brother when you're single, all right? So why do I say marriage, though? Give me Hebrews 13 and 4, because the end result of proving when it comes to men and women dealing with each other should be marriage. Read that, Hebrews 13 and 4.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 4.
Come on.
Marriage is honorable in all.
So marriage is what's honorable to God, not boyfriends and girlfriends. Marriage is what God honors. Read.
And the bed undefiled.
And you notice how the bed comes after the word marriage. That bed means sex. So the thought of sex comes after you're already married and God has honored your marriage. Go ahead.
But whoremongers.
A man that sleeps woman to woman or turns women into whores. Go ahead.
And adulterers.
Those that sleep with other people outside of their marriage.
God will judge.
Through various diseases, through child support, through court fees and various things. But disease is that biggest one. The most common one is, of course, baby daddy, baby mama drama and child support and alimony and stuff like that. But second to that is going to be the diseases that you catch. Those are going to be the biggest things. Why? Because that's life-threatening, meaning you can die from going out and sleeping around, jumping person to person. The Bible said when your mind is not towards marriage, when it comes to male-female relationship, when you're not doing the thing that's honorable in the eyes of God, God will judge you. Will judge you. Not might, not maybe. Will judge is what the scripture says. So proving should have a purpose. 100% it should have a purpose. It's not something that we just jump into, right? Because you don't want to be light-minded. You take the time. And a lot of people confuse the scripture in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 when Paul says to if you can't control your urges, that you should go and just find you a wife. Guess what? The Bible is still saying you should prove them. So it don't mean that just because you burning to go out and find a wife or a husband. That would be light-minded and stupid. Straight up stupid. All right? But you don't want to prove just so you can have somebody to talk to, right? You was in the world and you used to having a boyfriend, girlfriend, so now you coming out of the world and now, you know, you just need a guy to talk to, or brother, you just need a sister that you can talk to. You used to doing that. Nah, that's not what proving is for, just so you can, as they said in Coming to America, sow your royal oats. Just so you can make yourself feel good having somebody to talk to. Then y'all find out y'all don't like each other, so now you go on and you want to prove somebody else. You get the phone number, and now y'all having late night. Come on, man. That's light-minded as hell, too. God don't honor that, and that's not what proving is set up for. So the end result should be marriage. Lust should not be the goal ever at any point in the proving process. But now we're going to jump into the book of Ruth. That's the reason that I titled the class what it is. Ruth, proving with wisdom. We're going to jump into the book of Ruth. And we all know Ruth was a heathen. She was a Moabitess. Some people don't believe that, but she was. Ruth was a Moabitess. She was not an Israelite. But we're going to dig into Ruth, and we're going to see how we find wisdom about proving or pertaining to wisdom in the book of Ruth. All right, so let's start off with the book of Ruth. Let's go to Ruth chapter 1, and let's start at verse number 1.
The book of Ruth, chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons.
Now, we see here, and there's a few things that's going on just in this first verse, right? It says, in the days when the judges ruled, in the days when the judges ruled, jump up to Judges chapter 21 and the last verse, verse 25. Why did it say in the days when the judges ruled? This is before we had a king. This is right before we had a king. So we had came out of Egypt. Remember, the first generation died in the wilderness after those 40 years. So that second generation is the ones that went into the land, and then you had another generation to come behind it. Well, during that time, we didn't have a ruler. We just had the judges that was set up from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1. We just had judges at that time. So there was no singular ruler in Israel. So read that. Judges 21:25.
The book of Judges, chapter 21, verse 25. In those days, there was no king in Israel.
So this was before the period of the kings. Come on.
Every man did that which was right in his own eyes.
So you see that? We had started falling off because everybody did what was right in their own eyes, not according to the scriptures. We had started falling off again. All right, give me Deuteronomy chapter 12 and verse 8. I didn't have this written down, but we're going to jump to it. Deuteronomy chapter 12 and verse 8.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 12, verse 8. Ye shall not do after all the things that we do here this day. Every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes.
So you see that? Moses warned us. He said, don't do that. Don't do what's right in your own eyes. Isaiah talks about it. David talks about it. Don't do what's right in your own eyes. Do what's right according to the scriptures. So every man was doing what was right in his own eyes, and it created issues, and that's why we see in Ruth a few things. But they did what was right in their own eyes. Also, there was a certain man in the of Bethlehem, Judah. Bethlehem, Judah, of course, is the Israelites. Judges 19, I think it's Judges 19:1. Read that real quick, just to make sure.
The book of Judges, chapter 19, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah.
So he took a Judite out of Bethlehem, Judah, right? Which was Hebron at one point in time, or it was Jebus was the name of it. But it goes into some more history, right? But it became Bethlehem. It was the city of David, and Judah took that land. So that's why I keep saying Bethlehem, Judah. That was the land that Judah was in. That was our land. Yes, I'm a Jew. All right. So now let's look at why he read first verse again, because I want to pull something else out of that.
Judges 19.
No. Ruth 1:1. I'm sorry.
The book of Ruth, chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled.
And we saw why there were just judges there. This was before the period of the kings. Come on.
That there was a famine in the land.
There was a famine in the land. Famine meaning there was no food growing. God had stopped the rain, and there was a famine. There was a shortage of food in the land. Go ahead.
And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab.
He went to sojourn. So that word sojourn means you go to another land, a land that's not particularly yours, and you go to stay in that land to live over there for a time. Now, there was a custom, and this is all customary in Israel. When he went to sojourn, whenever there was a famine, we would always go to sojourn in other places until our homeland was back right as far as food and grain and stuff like that went, right? So he went to sojourn because it was our custom. Go to Leviticus chapter 19. Leviticus chapter 19, and I want to read verse 33 through 34. I want to look at sojourn. We're going to deal with a little bit of history, y'all. All right? Leviticus 19, 33 and 34.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 33. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him.
So you won't oppress him. That stranger here in Leviticus is talking about your brother, another Israelite. So this man went into another land of his people, of Israelites, and we're going to show you in a minute who was in that land that he went to sojourn in. But a Jew went to sojourn in the land of another tribe of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right. So right here it says that if your brother has to come stay in your land, that you will not vex him, meaning you won't oppress him. Your brother is already being oppressed by the famine. When he comes in your land, don't oppress him, is what God told us. Verse 34.
Verse 34. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you.
So when he comes in your land, it's just like right now we see Judah and Issachar, which is the so-called American blacks, and Issachar is the Mexicans. We're the same people, but we got different customs. We use different spices. We might dress different. The music is different, right? Even words that we say, certainly now because English and Spanish, but words that we say, were different. And there's an example of that in the Bible where we told somebody from Ephraim, a Puerto Rican, to say one of our words, and he couldn't say it like we did. So we was like, yeah, bro, you ain't from over here. And, some crazy stuff happened. But that's how it go down. But when we would come to stay in your land, you had to treat us like we were one of your people. And we learned a lot of your customs, a lot of the particulars that was of your tribe. Go ahead. Was that the end of 34?
No, sir. And thou shalt love him as thyself.
And you love your neighbor or your brother as yourself. You're going to treat him like he was born and raised right there next to you. Come on.
For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God.
So that's why we have to deal with each other like that. God said that this is how you deal with brothers. So Christians don't understand that. Give me Genesis chapter 46. Let's look at an example of this happening. Because a lot of people say it wasn't no laws before Moses. Man, shut up. Give me Genesis chapter 46. I want to read 31 through 34, and let's read that kind of quickly. 31 through 34. Let's look at an example of brothers going to stay in a strange land when there was a famine.
Genesis chapter 46, verse 31. And Joseph said unto his brethren.
Unto his brethren, meaning his other 11 brothers that became the nation of Israel. Come on.
And unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh and say unto him, my brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me.
Why? Because there was a famine in that land. So we read that Jacob took all of his family, 70 souls. And one verse says 72. That's not a contradiction, but I'm not going to break that down today. But he took 70 souls into the land with him because there was famine in his land and they needed food. So they decided to go and stay in Egypt, not realizing that Joseph had been sold off into Egypt and God had set him up for a purpose. But keep reading.
And the men are shepherds, for their trade had been to feed cattle. And they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And it shall come to pass when Pharaoh shall call you and shall say, what is your occupation? That ye shall say, thy servant's trade had been about cattle from our youth even until now.
So now notice what Joseph is doing. He's showing them the customs of Egypt. He's treating them like somebody that was born in Egypt, giving them knowledge that they should know dwelling in that land. He said, look, when you come over here and you go to speak with Pharaoh, tell him that you were shepherds or that we are shepherds. Watch why he says it. Go ahead.
Both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians.
He said, man, he going to give y'all that good land over there because Egyptians can't stand shepherds. That's because of the stuff that went down with the Hyksos, proving that the Israelites were not the Hyksos. But he said, tell them that y'all are shepherds because the Egyptians hate shepherds. And they're going to give y'all that land over there. He's going to give you Gershom, the land that's plentiful, and you're going to be able to graze your cattle and all of the stuff that you get over there. You're going to be able to grow thereby. So tell him that. He put them, what we call today, put them up on game. But he treated them like people that were from Egypt by giving them knowledge that they were supposed to understand like every Egyptian would understand. All right? Now jump down. Let's go to 47, verse 1, and then read verse 4.
The book of Genesis chapter 47 and verse 1. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, my father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan, and behold, they are in the land of Goshen.
Verse 4.
Verse 4. They said, moreover, unto Pharaoh, for to sojourn in the land are we come.
So Pharaoh, when they went and talked to him, asked him, why did y'all come to this land? They said to Pharaoh, to sojourn in the land. We came to stay in this land for a time. Come on.
For thy servants have no pasture for their flocks.
We don't have a pasture for our flocks. Why? Because there was famine in the land. There was nothing growing. Go ahead.
For the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. Now, therefore, we pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And
notice how softly they spoke to him. They spoke softly to him and said, let your servants please dwell in the land of Goshen. They said it night. They wasn't no punks. They just spoke with wisdom, right? Their conversation was right. They understood. Say this with wisdom because this man rules everything. And right now, this is life or death for us. So we want this land. All praise to the Most High. We're going to talk to the men we're going to talk to them like men, but we're going to humble ourselves and ask, can we take this land and sojourn in this land for a time? So that's what we're seeing. And Joseph moved with them like he was supposed to move. So when we go back to the book of Ruth, chapter 1, that's what we see that happened with Elimelech was his name, but when he went into the other land to sojourn. All right? Ruth chapter 1, verse 2.
The book of Ruth, chapter 1 and verse 2. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife, Naomi, and the name of his two sons, Mahlon and Chilion.
So Elimelech was married. He had a wife. His wife's name was Naomi, and he had two sons, right? Go ahead.
Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah.
And Ephrathites are the royal line, the royal lineage of the Jews. That's a whole nother class. Read.
And they came into the country of Moab.
And they came where?
Into the country of Moab.
So they went into the country of Moab. But we were just discussing brothers treating each other like brothers, having brotherly love, taking care of your brother. But this is the country of Moab. The Moabites ain't our brothers. Keep reading. Let's finish that out, and then we'll go back and explain it.
And continue there.
So they sojourned in the country of Moab. Now, why is it important to understand the country of Moab? I got to dig into some more history for you. Let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 22 and verse 1 first. Numbers, chapter 22 and verse 1.
The book of Numbers, chapter 22, verse 1.
And we still going into proving. We're going into proving. Come on.
And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side Jordan by Jericho.
So here it says that the children of Israel pitched in the plains of Moab. In the plains of Moab. So let's see what the plains of Moab is also called. Go to chapter 21, the chapter before. And I want you to read verse 10 and 11.
Numbers chapter 21 and verse 10.
Uh-huh.
And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in Oboth.
So this is all of the places that when we came out of Egypt and we're going to take our land, these are the places that we pitched in, some of them. So Oboth is one place. Go ahead.
And they journeyed from Oboth and pitched at
Ijeabarim.
Uh-huh. In the wilderness, which is before Moab.
Which is before Moab.
Toward the sun rising.
The rising sun. That's why the Chinese people got that on their flag. Just a little nugget. That's why the Chinese people got that on their flag. All right? The rising of the sun. Jump down to verse 13.
Verse 13.
Uh-huh.
From thence they removed and pitched on the other side of Arnon.
On the other side of the Arnon River.
Which is in the wilderness that coming out of the coast of the Amorites.
And the people of the Amorites now are in this land. Uh-huh.
For Arnon is the border of Moab.
Arnon is the border of the land of Moab. Come on.
Between Moab and the Amorites.
Between Moab and the Amorites. Jump down to verse 19. Let's read 19 and 20. We're talking about the country of Moab. In Numbers 22 and 1, it was called, we also talked about the plains of Moab. Let's read 19 and 20. See what this country of Moab is.
Verse 19.
Uh-huh.
And from Matana. From Matana to Nahaliel. And from Nahaliel to Bamoth.
Uh-huh.
And from Bamoth in the valley.
In the valley.
That is in the country of Moab.
That is in the what?
In the country of Moab.
In the country of Moab. So the plain of Moab is the country of Moab. It's the same land. All right? Just so you know. Now go to Joshua chapter 13, verse 32. Let's nail that one down. What is the country or the plains of Moab? Joshua chapter 13 and verse 32. Who was in that land?
The book of Joshua, chapter 13, verse 32.
Come on.
These are the countries which Moses did distribute for inheritance in the plains of Moab.
Wait a minute. So Moses distributed land in the plains or the country of Moab? Come on.
On the other side, Jordan, by Jericho eastward.
By Jericho eastward. So this land is the land that was in the possession of the Israelites once we took it. And the Israelites in particular that were in that land was Reuben. This is the land that Moses gave to the children of Reuben. All right? And do I want to pull? No, I won't go into that. I don't want to take too much time. So that land was given to the children of Reuben. Just above them, we went further up and took Bashan's land because they came out to war when we took that little piece of space or that space of land. And then we defeated Bashan, King Bashan, and we took both of those pieces of land. So that land in particular, where the plains or the country of Moab is, was Reuben. Above that, which is where the Amorites were heavily, became the land of Gad. And then we had the half tribe of Manasseh there. All right, just you can look that up for yourselves so you can read it and see it for yourselves. So these women that were taken by, go back to Ruth. Let's go back to Ruth. Go back to Ruth. All right. And read verse number 3, I believe it is.
The book of Ruth, chapter
3 and 4. Ruth, Ruth, chapter 1, verse 3 and 4.
The book of Ruth, chapter 1 and verse 3.
Uh-huh.
And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died.
So he died. She became a widow. Read.
And she was left, and her 2 sons.
Uh-huh.
And they took them wives of the woman of Moab.
So these sons, remember, we were doing everything that was right in our own eyes, right? We were doing everything that was right in our own eyes. But there's also a law that fits into here, because I'm explaining to you, historically, Israel came in and conquered that land, or those whole pieces of land above Moab. We conquered all of that. Today, it's called East Bank. It's also called Jordan. All right, it's all the land of Israel. But we took all of that land for ourselves and were supposed to kill everybody there. We didn't. We left some of the inhabitants there. And before we went into that land and took it, that land belonged to Moab, which is why it's called the Plains of Moab. And the Amorites, when they took that land, enslaved some of the children, the sons and daughters of Moab. Again, you can look that up for yourselves historically. I don't want to go into that because I'm dealing with proving. But that's why these people were in that land. That's why the Israelites were in that land. But they left the name there of the Plains of Moab. They left it there, all right? But there was something that happened. These sons of Naomi, or of Elimelech, took wives, and the wives were Moabites. They were Moabite women, all right? They were Moabite women, not Israelite women. They were Moabite women, all right? Did you read verse 4?
I didn't finish it.
Yeah, all right, read it from the top again, verse 4.
Verse 4, and they took them wives of the woman of Moab.
And they took wives of the women of Moab. Come on.
The name of the one was Orpah.
One was named Orpah. Now, the name Orpah, I had to look up these names because I was like, okay, these names are interesting. Let me look and see. So the name Orpah actually in Hebrew means neck or stiff-necked. So Orpah was a stiff-necked woman. Go ahead.
And the name of the other, Ruth.
And the name of the other one's name was Ruth. Also, Orpah meant fawn, or it means fawn, like a deer, a female deer. And what do deers do? We know deers to run. They run. So we're going to see the spirit that's in these two women. Orpah had the spirit of stiff-neckedness and the spirit to run, but Ruth's name means friend or a compassionate friend, all right? So one daughter was stiff-necked and one daughter was compassionate and a compassionate friend to Naomi, and probably thus to her husband. I say probably because it doesn't say it, but there's a lot in the name, and we're going to see their actions. But why does it say that they took them for wives? I want to touch on that because there is a law that was given to us. Go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21, and quickly read 10 through 14. Let's look at that law. Look at that law.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21 and verse 10. When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God had delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest among the captives a beautiful woman.
Man, you see a woman and she bad. She beautiful. Go ahead.
And has a desire unto her.
And you have a desire unto her, meaning you lusting after her because she's so beautiful. Because at war, women weren't around. It was men fighting men. So God gave us, during the times of war, a law that would allow us to be able to take women so that we wasn't sleeping with each other. God never wanted men, the men of Israel, to be sodomites or homosexuals, as we call it today. But the biblical word for that is sodomites. God said there shall be no whores of the daughters of Israel, nor sodomite of the sons of Israel. So he gave us a law that in times of us conquering places, or if we had conquered a place and we saw a woman that was beautiful, we could take her to wife. Let's finish reading how we do it.
That thou wouldest have her to thy wife. Then thou shalt bring her.
So notice, they didn't just have sex with her. They took her to be their wife. Go ahead.
Then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head.
She shaves her head, meaning, remember, a woman's hair is her glory, but if her head is shaven, it's like she has no glory. It's symbolic. It is not the head covering that the Bible talks about. You're supposed to have a head covering on, not just hair on your head, because you could shave it and then say, well, I can just be disrespectful to men. No. So we would shave her head to humble her. Go ahead.
And pare her nails.
And pare her nails. We would knock her nails down. Now, that part I don't understand greatly, but we would pare her nails and shave her head. Go ahead.
And she shall put the
raiment.
And she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her.
She would put off the shame and the raiment, the clothing of her captivity off of her. You would put new clothes on her. You would change her. You would teach her. And she would learn the ways of your people, your customs, so that she could be a good wife to you. All right? Was that verse 14?
No, sir, that's verse 13.
Come on.
And shall remain in thine house,
Mm-hmm.
and bewail her father and her mother a full month.
Why? Because she had just lost her parents. She's going to be sad. So she's going to bewail her parents. And you give her a month to be sad and to mourn so that she's then prepared emotionally to deal with you. You give her some time. Is that it?
No, sir, it's a lot more. And after that thou shalt go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife.
There you go. So you took your time. You didn't just bring her in the house, and because you was horny, you all of a sudden jumped up. So you still proved her. You still took the time that God said to get to know her and to show her the things that she's supposed to know. Give her time to calm down. And then go and humble her. What'd you say?
Verse 14.
God, I thought you were still. Okay, go ahead.
And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her.
But if she ain't acting right, though, after all of this,
then thou shalt let her go, whether she will.
Then you let her ass go.
But thou shalt not sell her at all for money.
But you cannot treat her like a prostitute and sell her for money. Why? Because she was your wife. You can't sell her for money. Marriage is honorable. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not make merchandise of her, because thou hast humbled her.
Because you humbled her, you cannot make merchandise of her. Even though she was a heathen, you still dealt fairly and just with her because God commanded us to be fair and just. We had to do justice and judgment just like we still have to do today. A lot of people don't believe that. You know that, officer? A lot of people don't believe we still got to do justice and judgment today. Sheesh. Go back to the book of Ruth, all right? So we read in verse 4. Now let's read verse 5 and 6.
The book of Ruth, chapter 1 and verse 5. And Mahlon and Chilion died also, both of them.
Damn. So now Naomi's husband and now her two sons died. So she's just left with her daughters-in-law. Come on.
And the woman was left of her two sons and her husband.
So she was widowed. She became a widow, and she didn't have a man right there directly because she was in that land for 10 years. So she didn't have a man anymore there to deal with her or to take care of her at that time. Verse 6.
Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread.
So you see that? So over time, the word came out of Judah because we would go back and forth into our brother's lands. The word came out of Judah, Bethlehem, that, hey, everything is good back in Bethlehem. So now Naomi, instead of staying over there in their land, she's going to go back to the land of her fathers, the land that's hers. She's going to go back to her husband's house and land and go back to her people, all right? And notice it said that the Lord had visited his people. His people, Matthew chapter 2, verse 6. Who is God's people? Matthew chapter 2 and verse 6.
The book of Matthew chapter 2, verse 6.
Come on.
And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah. For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people, Israel.
Israel is God's people. 1 Chronicles 17:21. Israel is God's people, not the whole world. Not the whole world. And just because Ruth did what she did, which we're going to read, just because she did what she did not make her God's people. Go ahead and read.
The book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 17, verse 21. And what one nation in the earth is like thy people, Israel?
What nation in the earth is like your people, God? Israel. The Israelites are God's people. For all of those of you that might be tuning in and hearing this for the first time, or those of you that's tuning in just so you can scoff and be mad. Oh, I'm mad about what they preach. What you on here for? What you watching us for? Because you a hater. That's why. But God's people is the Israelites. We read an Old Testament scripture and a New Testament scripture that says God's people are the Israelites. So now when we look at that custom, we see the sojourning happened. That meant going into another land. And you read about that sojourning also in Joshua 13, 15 through 23. You can look that up in your own time. And they dealt with our foreparents kindly. These two Moabite women did. They dealt with her kindly until she could return to her own land. Now let's go back to Ruth chapter 1. Let's go to verse number 8. And now we're going to read 8 through 17 real quick. 8 through 17. We're going to do some reading.
The book of Ruth, chapter 1 and verse 8. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house.
So Naomi wanted them to go back to their mother's house. Go ahead back to your people. Come on.
The Lord dealt kindly with you.
And then she blessed them because they dealt kindly with her. She said, and the Lord dealt kindly with you.
As ye have dealt with the dead.
As ye have dealt with the dead. Meaning you honored my sons in their death. You stayed here with me. You honored my husband's house. So now I pray, because remember, it was always told to us that we would bless those that blessed us, or God would bless those that blessed us, but he would curse those that cursed us. So these women, she blessed them. She said, y'all dealt kindly with me with all that we've been through and losing our husbands. So I pray that all goes well with you when you go back to your family's house. Come on.
And with me. The Lord grant you that ye may find rest.
That ye may find rest. That rest, she's talking about a particular thing. Watch what that rest is.
Each of you in the house of her husband.
That you would find other husbands. That's the rest that she wants to bless them with. Not getting into the kingdom of heaven. The blessing that she wanted them to have is at least finding another husband to be able to provide for them as women. Come on.
Then she kissed them. And they lifted up their voice and wept.
And they were sad because Naomi was good to them. They had a good relationship and a good bond. They had proved each other. They had taken their time to know that they were really friendly and true to each other, loyal. Come on.
And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people.
So then they were showing some loyalty. They like, look, we'll go with you and we'll go to your people. We'll go to your land with you. Go ahead.
And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will ye go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb?
So Naomi's asking, am I going to be able to have sons? Are there any more? Because I'm old. Are there any more sons in my womb? Women, y'all ain't the creators of life. Y'all eggs die over a time. We produce thousands of sperm per minute, like millions of sperms in a day. And up to 72 hours after we die, you could extract semen from us and still make a baby. We the gods of the earth, women. I just want y'all to know. It ain't y'all. So she said, there's no more sons in me. Come on.
That they may be your husbands?
That they may be your husbands. This is going into a law. Are there any more sons in my womb that they may be your husbands? Read Deuteronomy 25:5. We're going to see this a couple of times. So Naomi is dealing with them, but in her speech and conversation, she's speaking wisdom. They've proven that she's a wise woman. We see it in her conversation right now that she's saying, am I going to have any more sons? Is there any more sons in my womb that they might become your husbands? Read that, Deuteronomy 25:5.
Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 5.
Come on.
If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger.
The wife of the dead man can't go to a stranger or to somebody else. What is she supposed to do?
Her husband's brother shall go in unto her.
And that meant that could be your brother if he wasn't married, your brother. But it also goes into next of kin, your kinfolk, your people would go in unto her and take her to be their wife. Why?
And take her to him to wife. And to perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her.
What's that duty? Come on.
And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother, which is dead. That his name be not put out of Israel.
So this is what Naomi understood. That I don't have any more sons in me to make y'all's husbands. So y'all go back to y'all's people, and I pray that y'all find a husband when you go back. All right, go back to Ruth. So Ruth is speaking with wisdom. She's moving with wisdom in the commandments of God. All right. Where are we at? Verse number 12.
Verse 12. Ruth chapter 1, verse 12. Turn again, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have an husband.
So she's reiterating it. Come on.
If I should say, I have hope. If I should have an husband also tonight. And should also bear sons. Will ye tarry for them till they were grown?
You see? So she's saying, my sons, if I had more sons, you know, even right now, if I had a husband right here tonight and got pregnant and had sons, would y'all wait around until those sons were old enough to marry y'all? No, because then y'all going to be old. So she's speaking with wisdom This is a wise woman that these young women are dealing with. Goes into proving. Young women are supposed to be taught by the aged women how they're supposed to move. Goes into proving. Keep reading.
Would ye stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me.
So she was sad about it. She was saying, God has punished me. Keep reading.
And they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth claved unto her.
So Orpah, the stiff-necked one that has the name fawn or deer, burn off, ski skirts. She got up out of there. She kissed her on the cheek and said, all right, I'm going. I'm going to go find me another husband. I'm going to get back here. I ain't going to argue with you about going to your land. Cool. You said you don't want me to come? All right, cool. I'm going back this way. So she was stiff-necked. Let's see what Ruth did, though.
And she said, behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people. And unto her gods.
Unto her rulers, unto her idols. Come on.
Return thou after thy sister-in-law.
But what did Ruth say?
And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee.
Ruth said, look, please don't make me leave you. She was showing loyalty. She said, I don't want to leave you. She was a friend and a compassionate friend. That's what the name Ruth means. A friend and compassionate friend. She said, don't make me leave you. Come on.
Or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest,
for wherever you go,
I will go.
I'm going to the same place with you. I'm not leaving your side. Read.
And where thou lodgest, I will lodge.
Read.
Thy people shall be my people.
I will take on the customs of your people, whatever I got to do. Read.
And thy God, my God.
And I will follow whatever rules are set before you. I will follow them. That was the rule of our land. If we had servants amongst us of the other nations, they still had to keep the things that we had to keep in order to dwell amongst us. Why? Because God's people is a righteous people. His land is a righteous land. He is a righteous God. You can't be amongst us, living in all manner of sin and evil. You got to learn what we learn. Even if you work for me. Now, you didn't come into the temple, the synagogues with me. You didn't come and keep the feast with me and so forth and so on. But when it was the Sabbath day, you didn't have to go in the field and work. You sat down over there, in your grass hut or whatever you had, and you chilled out for the Sabbath day because you couldn't do no work. Because I couldn't do no work. Because God didn't do no work. We had to follow it at that time. We had to follow it. And that's why we still today tell heathens, you're not an Israelite, okay, fine. Hey, look, if you believe that God can save you like y'all argue that he do, keep the commandments, bro. And guess what? They ain't going to do it. Just like our stiff-necked people of Israel ain't going to do it. But she said, nope, I'll go with you. Wherever you go, I go. Your people will be my people, and whatever customs you have and whatever laws you got from your God is the same stuff I'm going to follow. She showed loyalty. This is what brothers should be looking for in a sister. Loyalty first. That's why you take your time and not be like-minded, taking somebody too quickly. Make her prove that she is loyal. Because if she's loyal to God and to the commandments of God and to the congregation y'all are in, she's going to be loyal to you. It's the first step. So she showed loyalty. Verse 17.
Verse 17. Where thou diest,
wherever you die, Naomi,
will I die.
Is where I will die. I'm going to die in your land next to you no matter where you die. All right? Also, when she asked, will you tarry for me in verse number 13, that's Genesis 38 and 8. And then, again, Orpah went back to her leaders and to her idols, as we read about. So we begin to get a picture of who Ruth is. We begin to get a picture of the type of character that this woman has in her, all right? And that character, after she was humbled by her husband, then that character began to be developed by the aged woman that she was around in Naomi, because we see Naomi moving in loyalty, faith, and wisdom. Because only a loyal woman would say, look, I can't take care of you and I don't have a husband for you, so I pray that the Most High bless you to find a husband. Go ahead and go your way. I let y'all go your way, find husband so that some man can take care of you and guide you. She showed loyalty. She showed friendliness, kindness towards other people. The Bible, believe it or not, let's get that, man. Let's get that. Live peaceably. Live peaceably.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Get that. Don't think that just because these people are heathens that we supposed to be out here acting a damn fool with them. That ain't what the Bible ever tell us to do. The Bible gives us a commandment of how we supposed to move. Read that.
The book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 18.
Read.
If it be possible.
If it be possible. Now, some of these heathens don't make it possible, but we still have to control our spirit to the best of our ability. That's why it says, if it be possible, read.
As much as life in you.
That's why I say to the best of your ability.
Live peaceably with all men.
With all men, heathens and non-heathens. Because some of our brothers and sisters, many of our brothers and sisters today still act just like the damn heathen. But the Bible said, follow peace. Try to live peaceably with all men. Go back. So what Naomi did is she lived peaceably. She said, look, y'all were good to me. I pray that the Most High is good to y'all. That's what she said. All right. But we begin to see that Ruth's actions showed the faithfulness in her. Right. And that's what you want. You want a picture of a faithful mate, a faithful woman for the men, faithful husband for the sisters. That's what you want to see. Don't be like-minded. You want to see faithfulness and loyalty first. All right? Let's see. What does it say? Tobit chapter 10 and verse 12. Tobit. For those of you who don't know, these are in the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha are not canon, because canon is a Christian word. The Apocrypha is part of the Bible. It's books that were actually in the Bible, all right? During the intertestamental period is what your pastor and them will call it. All right. Give me that. Tobit 10 and 12.
The book of Tobit, chapter 10, verse 12.
Uh-huh.
And he said to his daughter.
He said to his daughter.
Honor thy father and thy mother-in-law.
That's in the 10 Commandments. Honor thy father and mother who?
In-law.
In-law. So not just your mama and daddy that gave birth to you, but also your in-laws, the Bible says, to honor them. Why?
Which are now thy parents.
So Ruth understood that Naomi was her parent. She stuck close to her mother. She honored her mother who honored her. She honored her husband's mother who is her mother-in-law, but the Bible says, which are what?
Now thy parents.
Which are now thy parents. Read.
That I may hear good report of thee.
And that's why you want to prove. That's why you don't want to be like-minded. You want to hear a good report of a faithful person. You want to know, how do they honor their father and their mothers? Because then you'll know how they're going to honor your father and your mother, which is their mother and father-in-law. So in proving, you want to make sure that they do that. Make it be seen. Go to Exodus chapter 20 and verse 12. Why does it say that? That your father and mother-in-law are now your parents. Exodus 20 and 12.
The book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 12.
Read.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
That's the law. Honor your father and your mother. Why?
That thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee.
That you can live long on earth and God don't kill you early. That's the Bible. So this is what Ruth was doing. She was honoring her mother-in-law, who she understood was now her mother, was her parent. And that's how she dealt with it. Now give me Sirach. Give me Sirach chapter 6. Now let's read verse 15 through 17. Because what Ruth was doing was this. Read that.
The book of Sirach, chapter 6, verse 15.
This is what was noticed about her. Read.
Nothing doeth countervail a faithful friend.
Nothing countervails a faithful friend. Come on.
And his excellency is invaluable.
That person is invaluable when they're faithful. A friend that is faithful to God is a friend that is faithful to you, and there's no measure or amount of money that you can put on a friend like that. Read.
A faithful friend is the medicine of life, and they that fear the Lord shall find him.
And if you fear God, you're going to find. Fear of God is keeping the commandments, hating the evil way. So you're going to understand and apply the commandment that says, take your time to prove a friend. Read.
Whoso feareth the Lord shall direct his friendship aright.
Man, if you fear God, you're going to direct your friendship aright. The Bible says, don't be hasty. Don't be like-minded. Read.
For as he is, so shall his neighbor be also.
And you're going to find a friend like yourself. A friend and a friend and a neighbor never meet amiss. Never meet amiss. God put that together because you did it the right way. Go to 26 and 15. Read one more about a faithful woman.
Sirach chapter 26, verse 15.
Read.
A shamefaced and faithful woman is a double grace.
Is a what?
is a double grace.
Double grace. Come on.
And her continent mind cannot be valued.
You can't put value on a woman that is shamefaced and faithful. Take your time, brothers. Take your time. We all can be in a rush. All of us have a rush in mind because of the world that we live in. We live in a microwave society. Take your time, brothers. Sisters, take your time. Don't be like-minded. Learn to be shamefaced and faithful so that you're given to a faithful man, to an honorable and upright friend. All right? So no heathen, because I don't want y'all to get it twisted. I'm not talking about Ruth like she's an Israelite. I've said numbers of times that she is an heathen, and an heathen is not chosen by God. We read God's people are the Israelites. So don't get simple-minded about this. But no heathen would ever receive the inheritance, meaning they're not going to receive the kingdom of heaven. There will be heathens there after Christ returns. They're going to be our servants. They're not going to receive the same stuff that we receive. But we're going to treat them fairly because that's what the Bible said we had to do with our servants. So no heathen would receive the inheritance of Israel, but blessings would come to those that bless us and curses to those that curse us, like Rahab when she let us down, out of the window, but she made us make a promise first that we wouldn't touch her or her family. When we went in and took Jericho, her and her family were not touched. We kept our word, but they were sat outside of the camp. They didn't come in there with us, and they became servants to us. So we kept our word. The Syrophoenician woman in Mark chapter 7, verse 24 through 26, when she came and bowed at the feet of Christ. That heathen woman bowed at the feet of Christ. He said, man, look at your faith. You know what? For the faith that you've shown and the kind act that you've shown, I'll give you what you had here. Take that crumb. Your daughter is healed. Now go about your way. So don't get it twisted. Heathens not receiving what we receive, even though they do receive crumbs from the masters, the gods of the earth table. Let's go back to Ruth. We're going to jump down now. Ruth chapter 1. Let's jump down to verse number 22. So Naomi returned back to her land. Ruth goes back with her. Verse number 22.
Ruth chapter 1, verse 22.
Come on.
So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess.
She was a Moabite, a heathen. Come on.
Her daughter-in-law. With her, which returned out of the country of Moab.
Which was in the land of Reuben. Mount Pisgah is there where Moses is buried. That's in the land or the country of Moab. You could look over into Jericho. All right? That's Reuben's land. Go ahead.
And they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest.
Now, I sent you a picture. Pull that picture up real quick because I want you to understand what time period they returned back to the land. It said in the beginning of barley harvest. Pull that picture up. Yep. Read that. Easton's
Bible Dictionary. Harvest. It began with the feast of Passover and ended with Pentecost, thus lasting for 7 weeks.
So they came back in the beginning, or just as Passover was beginning. All right? In the midst of the Passover is when they returned to the land. It's funny because a lot of stuff happened around Passover, don't it?
Right.
That's funny. Interesting. All right. So that was the beginning of barley harvest. At the beginning of Passover, during the time of Passover, it began during Passover in the beginning of the Hebrew year, which is mid-March, mid-April, around there. So the new year is not January 1st, December 31st. No, it's mid-March, mid-April. That's the new year. That's why they say April Fools, because y'all some damn fools believing that the new year began in the dead of winter. God started the year when everything's coming back to life. Let's go to Ruth chapter 2. Let's read verse 1 and 2 now.
The book of Ruth chapter 2 and verse 1.
Come on.
And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech.
And
his name was Boaz.
Boaz means strength. Read.
And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field.
So she wanted to work willingly. She said, let me go to the field, she told her mother-in-law. Why? Because there was no man in the house. And Naomi was old. So Ruth said, we got to eat. So, Mama, I'm going to go out in the field and begin to work so that I can at least provide food for us. Come on.
And glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter.
So did Ruth just move on her own? No. She went to her mother first and told what her intentions were so that she could get guidance from the aged woman. And the wise aged woman said, hey, we do have to eat. Bless you. Go and do that, my daughter. We'll be successful. All right? So we see that wisdom is being had by Naomi in that she realized that they had to eat, and she was older, so she wasn't going to be able to do as much. Does it say that Naomi ever worked? It doesn't say. But Ruth certainly went out there, and Naomi told her what to do when she went out there. But why do we call it wisdom? Give me, and why is this a beautiful thing? Give me Proverbs 31. I want to read 13 through 15. Proverbs 31, 13 through 15.
Proverbs chapter 31, verse 13. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She
sought out wool and flax and work and did it with her own hands. So, brothers, don't take no bum, sister. They ain't doing no work. They just staying with mom and daddy doing nothing. They don't know how to do nothing. Ain't sewing, ain't cooking, ain't doing no work in the body. That's a bum sister, bro. Leave her be. Here it said that Ruth did it willingly. Sisters, don't link up with no bum brother. Let them work willingly. All right? Where were we at?
That was verse 13.
Verse 13, read.
Verse 14. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from far.
So merchant ship meaning she goes here to there. Sisters, look, if you can find a better deal at another store, learn how to look at some darn sales papers. Learn how to clip some coupons and be willing to go store to store. Hey, there's too much gas. It takes too much time. I don't want to do all of that. Man, shut up. In Proverbs 31, it says she like a merchant ship. A merchant ship don't only come from next door or up the block. A merchant ship go wherever to get the products that they need to be able to bring them back to sell. So you should be willing to go to other places to retrieve food for your Lord's house at the best price and the best type for your Lord's house. I want to read.
She riseth also while it is yet night.
Man, she ain't laying down all day. She rises while it is yet night to do what?
And give it meat to her household.
So she can provide and cook for her household. Brothers, she ain't willing to do that type of stuff. Leave her be. Let her die alone with a dog or a cat lusting. Read.
And a portion to her maidens.
And a portion to her maidens, meaning her daughters or those women that worked for her, those women that were under her. Give me verse 20 and then verse 27.
Verse 20.
Mm-hmm.
She stretcheth out her hands to the poor.
She stretched out her hands to the poor. She is charitable. Remember the things that we read that said what proven is? That she's charitable. That's proven. You want to see that this person is charitable. Read.
Yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy.
To the needy. She's taking care and has a care for her people. She is faithful and kind and charitable to her people. Verse 27.
Verse 27. She looketh well to the ways of her household.
She looks well to the ways of her household. Read.
And eateth not the bread of idleness.
And she ain't no lazy sister. Brothers, this is what you looking for. This is what Ruth is showing. This is the example that we see in Ruth to help you prove with wisdom. Let's go back. Ruth chapter 2. Let's read verse 3 through 7 real quick.
The book of Ruth chapter 2 and verse 3. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers.
So she went and did it like Ruth, like Naomi said. Hey, go ahead and go. Do your thing. Come on.
And her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz.
So she went to a part of the field that belonged to this brother named Boaz. Come on.
Who was of the kindred of Elimelech.
He was of her husband's brother's seed. It's a setup, bro. It's a setup. Read.
And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, The Lord be with you. And they answered him, The Lord bless thee.
So Elimelech was a kind person. He came in, he saw the people that worked for him, and he spoke. He said, hey, man, God bless you, brother. Shalom. And they said, hey, shalom, Boaz. He was a kind brother as well. He understood to move kindly and to deal kindly with your brothers and those people that are working for you. He wasn't a harsh man. Come on.
Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers. Whose damsel is this?
So now he took notice of a beautiful woman in the field. He said, who is she? Who is that? Whose damsel is this? Come on.
And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, it is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab.
He told him who she was. Huh. Boaz asked, who is that woman? And this brother gave a report on her. He didn't have to tell him all that. He could have just said, oh, that's Ruth. No, he gave him a report and told him she came back with Naomi from over there. She's a Moabite, let you know she is a heathen, but she came back with Naomi. Now, he would know the rest of the story, but we'll see. Let's keep reading.
Verse 7.
Let's jump down. That was verse 7, right?
No, sir.
Okay.
Verse 7.
Uh-huh.
And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves.
Okay, so the servant is giving more because now he says she came and said she wanted to work, so we put her to work. Go ahead.
So she came and had continued even from the morning until now.
Man, and she a hard worker too, Boaz. She a good worker, man. Read.
That she tarried a little in the house.
She wasn't lazy. She didn't eat the bread of idleness. She wasn't no lazy woman either, man. All right, so Boaz was keeping the law here, right? Boaz was keeping the law. When we read further, he tells her, hey, go over in this portion of the field, take what you need or whatever, and don't let nobody bother you. I've already told the men not to deal unjustly with you, to deal, treat you like everybody else, right? So he taught wisdom to the other men, but he put a hedge of protection around this beautiful woman, right? He knows that he knows about her because he's asked a report about her. But he was keeping the law. What law was he keeping? Give me Deuteronomy 24:21. What law was he keeping? Right here. What law was Boaz keeping? Let's read that.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24, verse 21.
Come on.
When thou gatherest the grapes of thy vineyard, thou shalt not glean in afterward.
Don't glean it afterward. Don't take all of it. Read.
It shall be for the stranger,
for
the fatherless, and for the widow.
It shall be for the strangers, for the fatherless, and for the widows. Naomi. So he was performing this action. Give me the book of Sirach. He was performing this action. He knew the law and how he was supposed to deal with her and with Naomi, and he did it, which is called what? Sirach 19, verse 19 and 20. What is that called when we hear a law and we keep it?
Sirach chapter 19, verse 19.
Come on.
The knowledge of the commandments of the Lord is the doctrine of life.
Is the doctrine of life. So our doctrine is the knowledge of God's laws. Read.
And they that do things.
And they that do.
That please him shall receive the fruit of the tree of immortality.
Are going to get into the kingdom of heaven. Read.
The fear of the Lord is all wisdom.
The fear of God, hating evil, is all wisdom.
And in all wisdom is the performance of the law.
Performing the law is what makes you wise. Psalms 19:7, same thing. Don't get it. Same thing is saying. This book is repetitive. It says the same thing. So Boaz was a wise man. Naomi was wise. Boaz is wise. Ruth is coming up under and around wisdom constantly. Go back to Ruth, chapter 2. Now we want to read verse 9 through 11. Let's see what happened.
The book of Ruth, chapter 2 and verse 9.
Come on.
Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them.
So now Boaz is giving Ruth instructions. Read.
Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee?
Have I not told these men not to touch you? Come on.
And when thou art athirst, go unto the vessels and drink of that which the young men have drawn.
So go and drink where they drink. Don't be ashamed to do what we do. Come on.
Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, why have I found grace in thine eyes?
So she fell to the ground. Wait a minute. That reminds me of the Syrophoenician woman in Mark chapter 7. In Matthew chapter 15. When Christ said, look, it's not good for me to give the children's bread unto the dogs, she fell at his feet and said, yea, Lord, of a truth you speak, but even the dogs eat crumbs from the master's table. She humbled herself. So brothers, you want to look for humility in a sister, not a sister that's not willing to accept accountability or take accountability. How will you know that? Because you're going to go to other people and ask about that sister first. You're going to take counsel of that sister and see what type of spirit she has. Has she had issues following counsel? Has she been a wild olive just running around doing whatever she want to do, constantly having to be checked? This is proving with wisdom. Be wise in your proving, brothers. Sisters as well. Be wise. So she showed humility. She fell with her face to the ground. Now let's see what that goes into, why that's important and why I highlighted that. Give me 1 Peter chapter 3, and I want to read verse 3 and 4. Why is that important that she humbled herself and showed that?
The book of 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 4. But let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible.
That is which is not corruptible, right? In a good heart, it's not corruptible. Read.
Even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit.
That's what you want, is a meek and quiet spirit. But you'll only know that if you take time to observe the sister, if you allow time for the sister to grow, make sure that she's actually dealing with senior sisters and getting guidance and wisdom from them, and then you watching how she moving amongst the body. Not because her hair is pretty and because the clothes, oh, she bad. Nah, bro, not that. Finish reading.
Which is in the sight of God of great price.
That's great price in the sight of God. Is that all?
Yes, sir.
Read James chapter 4, verse 10. James 4 and 10. It's of great price, and that's the same thing Proverbs 31 says. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her worth is above rubies. Read.
James chapter 4 and verse 10.
Come on.
Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord.
Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord. This heathen woman was willing to humble herself in the sight of the Lord. And brothers, you want to look for women, non-heathens, that are willing to humble themselves in the sight of the Lord. Come on.
And he shall lift you up.
And God will lift you up, which is what he ended up doing with Ruth. We're going to see that. All right. So let's go back. Let's go back and let's read 2 and 11. Ruth 2 and 11. I don't think we read verse 11. Right?
That's where we was at. You read it again?
That's where we was at?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Start that again.
Ruth chapter 2, verse 11.
Come on.
And Boaz answered and said unto her, it had fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law.
It had fully been showed. Why? Because he went and took counsel about her first. He wanted to know who she was first before trying to get at her. He wasn't in a rush or hasty to get with her. He took his time and found out about her and made sure that she had a good name and a good word before he was excited about how he was going to deal with her, which will make all of us be foolish. Come on.
Since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity,
where you were born,
and art come unto a people which thou knowest not heretofore.
Because you don't know us. These aren't your people. You came here, but you don't know us. How is it shown? Because back in verse 5, he took counsel about her and was given a good report. And that's what he was attracted to. Of course, she was pretty. Brothers, stop faking. When people ask you what's the first thing you look, we already know you looking for a pretty face, bro. Stop fronting. We already know looks is going to matter. You got to be attracted to it. We get it. But beyond that, the thing that should be most attractive to you is her works, her report, the way that you see her moving, that you can actually see. That's what should be the most attractive to you. Sirach 25. Sirach 25 and 21.
The book of Sirach, chapter 25, verse 21.
Come on.
Stumble not at the beauty of a woman, and desire her not for pleasure.
Don't stumble at her beauty and don't desire her for your pleasures only. She should be pleasing to you, her beauty, and everything else once you marry to her. That should be pleasing to you, but that shouldn't be your first thought. Don't stumble at that. Meaning don't err. Don't fall out of your wits because she's beautiful. All right? Give me Sirach 42, 12 through 14. We're not going to finish this today, so I'm going to end up having to do a part 2 of this thing.
Sirach chapter 42, verse 12. Behold not everybody's beauty.
Don't behold everybody's beauty. Don't gaze and be like, oh, my God, she's so beautiful. He's so handsome. Look at his feet, girl. Don't behold everybody's beauty. Come on.
And sit not in the midst of women.
And don't sit in the midst of women, brothers. Don't be over there just trying to sit around like a wolf in the midst of sheep, seeing who you can pick off. Come on.
For from garments cometh a moth, and from women wickedness.
Because wickedness come from those women. No matter how beautiful she is, how beautiful. We don't even get to see their hair most of the time. But her makeup and all of the stuff that she, man, hey, it's wickedness behind that, bruh. You better be careful. Read.
Better is the churlishness of a man than a covetous woman.
Damn, the Bible say a churlish man is better than a covetous woman. A woman that only want to take you for money and for power because you are officer of 50, you officer this, you captain this. The Bible say a churlish man is better than a covetous woman. Read.
A woman, I say, which bringeth shame and reproach.
A woman that bringeth shame and reproach. That's a covetous woman. She gonna bring shame and reproach. All right, go back to Ruth. Chapter 2, we're gonna read verse 19 through 21.
The book of Ruth, chapter 2, verse 19.
Uh-huh.
And her mother-in-law said unto her, Where hast thou gleaned today? And where wrougest thou? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee.
So now Naomi is saying, okay, you know what? Somebody moved in wisdom. They let you come in their field and glean today. Why? Because she knew the law that a portion of that field was supposed to be left for widows and for the fatherless, meaning orphans, and for strangers. She knew that law. So she said, blessed be that man. He's keeping the commandments of God. Come on.
And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, the man's name with whom I wrought today is Boaz.
So now she gives Naomi the name. Says, yeah, it was a man named Boaz that let me glean in his field. Come on.
And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, Blessed be he of the Lord, who had not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead.
She said he's blessed in God because he did not leave off his kindness to the living, meaning me, and to the dead, meaning he showed honor to my dead husband and to his brothers, which were my sons. He showed honor. So bless that man for keeping the commandments, doing what he's supposed to do, showing himself a man, an upright friend. Read.
And Naomi said unto her, the man is near of kin unto us, one of our next kinsmen.
So now Naomi thinking, that's our brother. He's next of kin to us. He's near of, She formulating. She putting 2 and 2 together. Deuteronomy 25:5, right? We ain't got to read it, but she putting 2 and 2 together. Wait a minute. The Lord lets you happen on a field that happens to be of the man that's next of kin to my husband. Keep reading.
And Ruth the Moabitess said, he said unto me also, thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all my harvest.
So Ruth told him this. Naomi, a light bulb went off. Wait, he said stay in his land and keep working and stay here until the harvest ends? What is this man doing? Sheesh. Read verse 23.
Verse 23. So she kept fast.
Go ahead and read 22. Go ahead and read 22.
Verse 22.
Yeah.
And Naomi said unto Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it is good, my daughter, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field.
She said, hey, it's a good thing that he told. All right, he doing something good. He told you to stay there and work in his field. Don't go to another field. Read.
So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz.
So Ruth did what?
Kept fast by the maidens of Boab.
She took the counsel and applied it. She did what she was commanded to do, showing herself good, an upright friend, worthy of proving. Read.
To glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law.
So Ruth showed herself to be a woman that could accept and receive counsel. Give me Sirach chapter 26, verse 14 before we close out. Sirach chapter 26 and verse number 14. Why is this important? Read that.
Sirach chapter 26, verse 14. A silent and loving woman is a gift of the Lord.
So, brothers, when you're looking for a sister, you want to look for a sister that is silent and loving. How will you know? Because she will come in. There won't always be word of her being caught up in mess. She's not going to be modifying her dress so that it's fitting her curve and her figures. She's going to move like you see the other wise women in the congregation move. And her reports when you go to ask about her are going to show wisdom. People are going to say, no, the sister's good. You know, I've seen her at times. And you want to ask, has she been corrected? How does she take it? That's going to show if she's a silent and loving woman, which would make her possibly a gift of the Lord. Read on.
And there is nothing.
And there is nothing.
So much worth
Uh-huh.
as a mind well instructed.
Why? Because she took instructions. Close it out with Sirach chapter 6 and verse 32.
The book of Sirach, chapter 6, verse 32.
Come on.
My son.
My son or daughter.
If thou wilt.
If you desire.
Thou shalt be taught.
If you desire to learn, you will learn. Read.
And if thou wilt apply thy mind.
And if you apply your mind, if you actually apply what you learned.
Thou shalt be prudent.
You will be wise. Pray that you glean something from today's class. I'm going to have to come back with the next part for that thing. With that, I say, shalom.
What is a nation?
Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you.
And finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord. His word